but we're going to be talking about the film recently released. It was directed by Sia, and it was called Music. So it was it sort of caused uproar among the autistic community. And would you sort of want to describe why all of that happened?
Yeah, certainly. So, just for a bit of context, Sia released the teaser trailer for her directorial go, but yeah, she released this teaser trailer for Music, and the trailer itself depicts an autistic person called Music. In itself is very confusing. There's a film called Music, and then it's a whole thing. But basically, the reason why there was controversy and backlash was the main character, the autistic character Music, is played by a neurotypical actress, Maddie Ziegler, which in itself something which we as an autistic community have been pushing to change, to get autistic actors and actresses, playing these parts. Just it's not about I don't know what, like, pigeonholing people. It's about trying to give as real of a representation and as a more just as a respectable representation of autistic people as possible. But on top of that, and also finding out that Sia, she apparently had someone hired for the role who was autistic, but it didn't work out. That caused issues, and it was basically a lot of the reason why it blew up to as big a proportion as it did was really Sia's they're now infamous tweets.
It's just sort of the way she handled it all.
Like I was saying to you yesterday when we was talking about the stream and setting up the stream and stuff, it was just handled in a really bad way. Like if it was a PR kind of scenario, it was very bad PR. There was just no real handling of the situation. It was just literally Sia at I think she said she was doing it at 2:03 a.m. her time, because I think she is Australian, so I imagine she was in Australia at the time. It just wasn't handled very well, which escalated things.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought I'd point out, that as much as regardless of Sia's response, it would have been seen as offensive in many ways. I feel like the way she handled it would definitely didn't help with that. She made it a lot worse than it would have been otherwise. Like in a situation where she would have just she's been a lot more respectable about it, I'm sure people would have at least tried to give it a chance. But by the way she handled everything, I feel like she sort of ruined that chance.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, there was like loads of just tweets at Sia, from people like myself who were saying like what was wrong, and just like asking like what, why has this happened the way that it has? Like how did we get to a point? Well, how did we get to this point? And just pointing out all like the flaws with it, really. But I guess, obviously Sia just doubled down, which made it 10 times worse.
Yeah, it made it awful. You also made a video about it recently, didn't you? About the whole film itself, and pointing out all the parts you didn't like, but also pointing out the very few parts that you sort of liked about the film. Do you want to talk a little bit about the video?
Yeah. Context: when the controversy first happened, I made a video on it straight away. I was actually taking a break. I was burnt out at the time, but this was something. This was something where I was like, do you know what? I need to talk about it. I've got a feeling in my gut that I need to talk about it. So I made the initial video, given my thoughts and reactions to it, and then I actually said in that video I want to review the film in its entirety, because for me, I think I could obviously comment on the teaser trailer, but I don't think it's very fair to do so. Obviously, I had my concerns at the time. That I'll just be clear, I had my concerns at the time, but I wanted to give it a chance in a way. I wanted to see the full thing before giving my thoughts on like Maddie Ziegler's performance and stuff. Because again, I want to just see everything for myself to come to my own conclusions. So I watched the film. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. But basically, like, I just told the story of music, like what the film was actually about, and I just went through the points, like just all of the points that were like bad with the film. Like I was just gonna say, like, what, you watched it recently?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so because it'll be fresher in your mind than mine, because I've only watched it the once. I felt like that was all that I could do. As someone who has watched it recently, what? Actually, I'm gonna start off with the positives first, if that's all right, because I think that's probably because there's more. I feel like there's more maybe negatives than positives. Like, were there any positives to the film for you?
Well, I guess as much as the way it carried out wasn't amazing, I like the idea that how Sia, she's in a way trying to spread awareness about it, and I like how it's a step towards more acceptance and more wider spread sort of stuff about autism in, like, not just films but in the mainstream media in general, and how it's more of a thing that people are trying to find out about as well. It shows that if there's people watching a film like this, it shows there's clearly an audience for as much as the autistic community, but there's an audience for people that want to find out more about autism as well. And I think it's great to hear that there are people that are willing to learn about it and are willing to expand their knowledge in order to, like, sort of accept the truths about it.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I think obviously there is a massive, massive market for making content like this, and I think filmmakers, if they have the intentions to make things about not just autism but like disability in general, I think that's obviously amazing. And just massive respect to people who want to tackle it, because I think it's I think it's obviously endearing, but I think it's a massively difficult task, because like I've said previously on my YouTube channel, I think it's incredibly hard to make an autistic character. Obviously I'm talking about autism specifically here because it's because of the film, but even with like an autistic character, you can either, there's like ways to go about it. I think like you can see all of the traits and put every single trait under the sun into the character, and then that makes the character not believable, or just kind of stereotype, like a stereotypical kind of character that we've seen in many other productions, whether it's film or TV. So from Rain Man to like Atypical season 1, like that sort of thing. But then as well, there is that kind of thing, I think, which I think Hollywood in particular kind of worries about. And it's that, if we're doing something on a particular, like an autistic character, you have to kind of make them appear like they are to get that over to an audience, which most of the time, well, pretty much all the time with these sorts of films and TV shows, it's obviously not aimed at autistic people, it's aimed at the general public. So it's obviously about, getting that across. to people, which it is, which I think in this case is what they tried to do, but I don't think it went down very well. I mean, even the stuff that I did like, it was very few and far between. I mean, the main thing that I did like from the film, and I wish this kind of thing was talked about more, is like autism in different cultures, because the character Ebo, it was like the quickest thing in the entire film, but I thought it was really interesting was that he obviously brought up that his brother was like music. It obviously didn't say autistic, but I kind of felt it's kind of implied in the film. But like he was talking about how his country kind of handles people like music, and I was like, I wish there was more education on that, because it's like to me that kind of stuff's interesting to me, to understand different cultures, how autism in different cultures is actually seen, because it's because I was seeing in like in the UK, US, all of that stuff. We have like like a greater awareness and appreciation for autism and autistic people, but maybe in other countries it's not like that. So it would have been good to see that, but I don't know. That was kind of the thing. Most notable to me, anyway, that I kind of liked about the film, that sort of thing was included.
Yeah, I definitely think that's good. And if it was more covering the other side of things about autism in different cultures, I think that'd definitely be useful, because you're sort of covering two bases of that. You're covering the whole subject of autism and spreading awareness about that, but you're also spreading awareness about different cultures, and I think that should be that could be very useful, because yeah, like you said, it's very publicly known sort of about autism in like America and all of that, but it would be useful to hear about what it's like in other places. And that's a thing that's not going to get that's not going to get spoken about very much. So it would have been a good opportunity to sort of develop on that subject a bit more. Yeah, and I was actually reading the character you mentioned. What's his name again?
Ebo.
Ebo, yeah, him. He's played by... It was Ebo, something like that. He's played by Leslie Odom Jr. He's also been in stuff like Hamilton, and he's in other TV shows. And I was reading an article earlier. He defended Sia and said sometimes things like this go... this isn't a direct quote, but this is like sort of what he said. He said these things sort of go right, but sometimes they go wrong as well, as long as you try in the first place. And that's something that sort of made me think, because a lot of pressure must have been on Sia in the first place to make this, but I feel like what she concentrated on is something that you mentioned, make it very visibly how music is autistic, and I think that's the thing she got too caught up on, because if she maybe got more autistic people on to help out with it, and actually concentrated on the other side of things, the lesser talked about things that aren't the visible sort of side of things, then I think it could have worked out a lot better for her. But yeah, I think it's interesting what he said about it and how he's defending her in a way.